Alright, hello and welcome back to these videos. Today I'm going to be doing a video that was requested on my high school past, but also go into my school past and, childhood. So basically, I went to primary school. I'm not going to obviously name the school, but it was in my local area near Belfast. So it was a primary school. Started there. I'll just talk about like friends and experiences I can remember. My memory isn't the best. Like, my memory is kind of blank from my younger years. I don't have much of a memory, but I do remember specific events. So I'll talk about specific events and stuff that happened. So in school, I didn't really have friends in school that I visited their house. I can't even remember. I don't think, like, I wasn't really allowed to visit other kids' houses. I wasn't allowed to have friends because my dad was kind of weird about that. Don't want to throw him under the bus too much though, and he has helped me. Like, he is supportive of me now. He's a changed man than he was. He was just in a bad place back then, and I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for people, but he had the impact he had on me, and yeah, it wasn't just him that had the impact. A lot of things had an impact on me. I mean, to a large extent it was that, but it was also getting my nose broken. It was also breaking out with acne. It was also developing social anxiety and then hiding from the world and not interacting with people and ignoring people and have a bad attitude. But which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like... Anyway, let's go back to school. I want to stick to this topic. So school... I did alright in primary school. The teachers always said I had a lot of potential. They always said that. I just wasted my potential basically, but in school I was a lot better. Like, I loved drawing. I loved reading books. I read so many books. I read Goosebumps. I loved Goosebumps books, and even though I read all the Goosebumps books, there were these like rip-off Goosebumps. It was like, they were Goosebumps, but they weren't Goosebumps. They were £1 each, which was great, so I used to buy all of those and read them all cover to cover, and they were actually pretty good. I can't remember the name of them, but they were like rip-off Goosebumps books. They were exactly like Goosebumps books, but they were written by somebody else, and they were a lot cheaper also. Bargain Books, I think, was the shop I went to get those. Yeah, Bargain Books. Red, that's the red shop. So shout out to Bargain Books. Really top-notch stuff in there. I used to love going there and getting books. I used to be so excited. I wish I was that excited for books now. Like, when I was younger, I was into all that stuff. I was into books and reading and drawing and creating things, building things. I wish I'd kept that passion and enthusiasm I had from that young age. So obviously everything wasn't bad. We only remember the bad things from our childhood because they're traumatic moments that stick out, because that's for our survival. Our brains are made this way. We remember the worst moments. We remember the most negative moments. We remember the most traumatic moments. Why? Because it's survival instinct. Those traumatic experiences, it's like danger. You want to avoid that danger in the future, so you learn. And that's why it goes so deep into your subconscious. It's like fight or flight. What do you do in this situation? Oh, let's refer back to the past. But it can really cause mental health problems, because it's the world isn't actually like that if you've grown up like that. But the world isn't actually like that if you have traumatic experiences. But the world isn't actually like that all the time. But you're reacting to the world as if it is like that, as if it's a threatening place, as if you're constantly under threat. So, that's why it becomes a mental health issue, because the world isn't like that. So you don't need to be like that, on high alert all the time, like a bird looking over its shoulder while it's trying to eat. You're always on high alert, and that's not the way to be in this world. So it's a mental health disorder, yes. You don't need to be like that in this world. It's not caveman times where there's no laws and you're going about, and there's people chucking spears at you from another tribe. You don't have to be on the lookout for that. Most of the time anyway. Depends where you live. Let's get back to school. So school, I mean, I had friends in school. I had friends I played with. I used to play cars in the playground. We used to talk about PlayStation games that we played. We used to get really excited about that, about Resident Evil. Used to talk about that back in school, and people really loved that game, and that's how I got into that game, because people recommended it in my school, and then I went out and found it and bought it, and yeah, it was a great game. Obviously, Resident Evil 2 was the first one I played. Spent hours playing that. even though I had no clue what I was doing because I was only like 7, 8 years old. So yeah, I was kind of just wandering around the place. And I was like a total noob. I didn't know what I was doing. So, but it has nostalgia for me because it was one of the earliest games. Well, I started playing games at 3, so it wasn't really one of the earliest games, but it was one of the, just the sound and the ambience and the visuals. It was kind of revolutionary at that time, or nothing like I'd played before anyway. So it's obviously going to stick out in my mind. Nostalgia, that's how nostalgia works. You never experienced something like that before, and you experience it and it's like, wow, mind blowing. But there might have been other games like that I just didn't play before that, you know what I mean? So it's just, that's why that game would have a lot of nostalgia in my heart, a place in my heart. It's just because you never experienced anything like that before. It's like children these days playing Fortnite. They've never experienced anything like that before. It wouldn't be, it's nothing for me because I've played so many games. It's like another shitty game, but for them it's like, if they ever look back at it in 10 years, it'll be like nostalgia for them, which is weird for me to think of because like I really don't like that game, and a lot of people don't like that game. And it's not just me being a hipster, I just don't like it, and obviously it's not for me, it's for kids anyway. So yeah, games like that, it's just, they've never experienced that before, so they're saying this for the first time, so like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this before. So it's special to them, it's going to be special to them, just like Resident Evil 2 was special to me. Just like Tekken and all those games. Gran Turismo and Crash Bandicoot, because that was the first real 3D platformer I played. And it was like amazing back in those days, back in 1997. A 3D platformer that looked that good. I loved that game too. Obviously I did a re-release of it on the PS4 with new graphics, but I didn't really actually play it because I liked the original game. I mean, it is slightly different to the original in that even the jumping is different. It has different sensors or something, and the controls are different because on the old PlayStation you only had, you didn't have the DualShock controller. You had the basic controller with up, down, left, right. You didn't have the DualShock, the sticks, the 2 sticks. You didn't have those back in the day. So it did play differently, though I still really enjoyed it. And Pandemonium, I loved that game. Anyway, this is supposed to be at school, and I know I go off on tangents, so let's get back to school. So in school, yeah, I had a few friends. I only ever really had one actual friend at a time. We would sit together in class and we'd just giggle and, we'd put up books in front of our face and, be talking. I can't even remember what we were talking about, probably just PlayStation games and cars and stuff, boy things. We had that in common, we brought like toy cars to school and Pogs. That was a big thing in the 90s. Loved those Pogs. Used to slam those Pogs, and I didn't know how to play. I just liked collecting them. I liked the pictures and stuff, and just the smell of them, and getting the magazines or the Pog collections and the plastic things. It's just the whole experience of it. Opening up this shiny packet. Oh, shinies! What are you going to get? The mystery of what you're going to get, and you got like 12 Pogs and a slammer in each pack, and it was so addictive. Like nowadays, obviously I'd be over that, but it's kind of nostalgic to me, those Pogs. And yeah, I had them stolen off me by a bully once, which there was a bully that lived around where I lived, and he stole my Pogs and he stole Lego off me also. I actually took Lego from the school. They had like a Lego box, and I took a few figures out of it and brought them home. And he stole them off me on my way home. I was really gutted about that. I wasn't really hard bullied. It was just like, just taking stuff off me. And then one day I just got fed up with it and said, I started shouting at him and hitting him. And he never bullied me again after that. So yeah, you just have to stand up to bullies. That's the thing. They think you're weak, so you have to stand up to them. And I'd had enough of that from home as well. So, couldn't be putting up with that. Even though I was really a thin, skinny child, so I didn't really have much, of a fight. If someone did actually fight me, I probably wouldn't really last long. I didn't work out, I didn't eat that much, so I was a lightweight and quite small child. But yeah, I was always full of, like, especially after 12 years old, 13 years old, I was always very, aggressive, like the little chihuahua. I was like that. I didn't have much meat in my bones, but I talked a big talk, basically, and I used to brag about fighting people, though I'd never fought a person in my life, really. So I was trying to scare people away, trying to intimidate people, but that wasn't very wise. It just pushed people away from me instead. I was trying to impress people and make people think I was hard, and so people wouldn't bully me like I was bullied, because I knew that worked to keep people away, because you have to stand up to bully. So I knew that worked, so I did project that, especially when I was 12, when I was 13, when I started, especially in first form at you call it grammar school here. Started after primary school, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'll wrap up primary school. So in primary school, yeah, the teacher said I had a lot of potential, but I passed my 11 plus. We have an 11 plus in this country, in the UK. I don't know if it's the same now, but in my day they had the 11 plus. This was to get into either grammar school or high school. So you had high school and you had grammar school. To get into grammar school, you needed better grades, so I got into grammar school by getting an A in my 11 plus, which is I did study back then, and I was forced to study by my mother. So she went through all the tests over and over and over again with me. So I went through those, and she helped me pass that test, because that's basically the only time I actually put effort into my studying, and I did get an A. Anyway, in primary school, yeah, I had a few friends. Usually only one friend at a time. I had that friend I would play cards with, and then I had another friend who was kind of weird, but he was very sexual for his age. He was very young, but he was very sexualized. He was always talking about women, and for a 10-year-old, or I don't know, he was 8. This was between the ages of 8 to 10. He was talking about women all the time, and I hadn't hit puberty yet. I don't think I hit puberty about 11, 12 maybe. So he was always talking about women. I didn't really understand, and he always wore glasses. But I had problems from home. I had mental health problems even at that time, and I didn't like people making fun of me or that. And he used to playfully make fun of me and say things. I can't remember exactly what he said, but one day I just took it the wrong way, and I grabbed his head and I slammed it on the concrete, and he busted his head open. I had to get stitches, so I got suspended for that. Obviously I didn't intend for that to happen, but yeah, I lost my temper, and I was only a kid. I was only, I don't know, 10 years old. At that time, the problems at home, it boiled over into real life, or into school life. And that was one incident. Yeah, I got suspended for that. So yeah, I did have kind of a troubled background, troubled childhood. Obviously I wish I hadn't done that. I was kind of had a tendency to violence, because that's what I was surrounded by, violence really, at home. But yeah, the traumatic experiences stick out. It wasn't like that all the time, I'm just saying, those traumatic experiences stick out and stick with you, because you're a child, your brain's developing. If you're around that when you're a child, you're going to view the world as a threat. As I said, a survival instinct. You've experienced traumas. You have, some people say it's PTSD, yeah, so that can come up, and that can be triggered by certain things, people saying certain things can trigger that, and then you go into that rage mode. It's I just went into, sometimes I would go into a red haze would just come over my eyes, and I'd go into that berserker mode. So that's why I split that guy's head open for making fun of me. I can't remember even what he was saying. It was so stupid. I wouldn't even blink twice at it now, but back then it triggered me. It triggered. Yeah, so it was a violent. I had tendencies for violence back then, but obviously I have that under control now. Yeah, I remember when I was suspended, I was being taken out of school, and there was these guys who were relatives of his who were older, and they were kicking me in the arse while the teacher was dragging me away, and I was crying. So that was a nice experience. Yeah. I mean, it was an accident that I split his head open. I didn't actually do that on purpose. I think I just drug him, and he ended up falling and hitting his head. So it wasn't like I totally went, I apologized to him, but I obviously he had his head busted open from that, and I got in trouble for that, obviously, and got suspended for that. I never want to be like that again. I never want to be that person. And I thought I wanted to be a hard man when I was younger, but I really don't now. I want to be a loving, caring person. Because what is the point of violence and hating and all that stuff? There is no point to it. You're just creating more violence and hatred in the world. There's enough violence and hatred in the world. You need more peace and love, and I realise that now, and that's the way to go, because you only live once. What's the point in living in misery and hatred and despising people? I mean, if there's people you don't like, just cut them out of your life, move on. You can do that. Toxic people, just avoid them. You don't need to fight them. Fighting them just makes it stronger. Fighting these things just makes it stronger. The demon grows. You have to let it go. You have to let it pass. You have to let karma run its course. Let things take their course. There's laws in place to protect you, to protect everybody. So yeah, after that, I did have a couple of other incidents. I was making fun of my friend one day in the school, and this is like karma coming back on me. I was teasing him about something, and then he ended up kicking me in the balls so fucking hard. Like, it was the worst pain I'd ever felt in my life at that point, and it was such an intense pain. I was chasing him around the playground, just teasing him, and he ended up kicking me square in the balls, and I just doubled over in the middle of the playground in a fetal position, basically. And my testicles actually, from that point on, I had a lump on my testicles, and I thought I was going to die by the age of 18 because I thought I had testicle cancer or something from that. But it turns out it's just a variocele, which was caused by that trauma. That was an intense... I don't know how a child can kick that hard. He kicked so hard. He was kind of a built child. He had his meals, so he was big. He was one of the bigger guys in our school. So yeah, you don't want to get a kick from him right in the nuts. It was... God, I've never experienced pain like that since, I don't think. It was so intense and left a black vein on my testicles as well. So yeah, it really fucked up my testicles, and I don't know if that fucked up my hormone production. That could have fucked up my hormones for life, because I'm not producing enough testosterone, I thought. Low testosterone maybe from that, but yeah, apparently you can produce enough from one testicle to... You don't need two, really. I've never had it checked by the doctor, but yeah, I know it's a variocele, and it's not... I would have been dead by now if it had been testicle cancer, but I do have a lump on there. It goes away when I lie down, but when I'm standing up, it's there. So there's another thing I've come clean about, and I got that from being kicked in the nuts really, 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 really hard after teasing somebody. So that was my karma coming back. That was after the incident where I split that guy's head open. That was my karma coming back on me. So you see, karma does exist, and I made bad karma and I paid for that. Nothing ever happened to him. I didn't get him suspended. I didn't even tell on him. I just said, my balls are fucking hurting. I didn't want to tell on my friend. I was always a very loyal person, always very wanted to be a tough guy, so I never told anybody if anything happened. I was always, I didn't want to be a snitch. I always hated people that were snitches and touts, so like where I lived in Northern Ireland, you always called people like that touts, and I didn't want to be a tout, obviously. So I never told on anybody if anybody did anything against me, especially a friend, and they're supposed to be a friend, but they kicked me so hard in the nuts. Like, I wouldn't want a kick. If that was an enemy, I wouldn't want... If that was a kick from a friend, I wouldn't want to be kicked by an enemy. Fucking hell. I left a big, like, multiple black veins. I don't know it's like circulation's obviously damaged around that testicle and did a lot of damage. It left varioceles and stuff from that trauma. And I did get like dull aches above my testicles and in my testicles for many years. Luckily I don't get that anymore. I think they've healed up quite a bit since then. And the lump is actually reducing now, which is really weird, especially with NoFap. I think that's a benefit of NoFap. Like, you kill that fire down, the lump will disappear, and the lump has gone down. It's not a lump on the testicle, it's a lump in the sac itself, so it's a variocele. If it's on the testicle, that's testicle cancer, which I don't have. I know I would have been dead by now if I had, because I've had that since 10 years old. I'm just mentioning noteworthy things that happen in school. This might be a very long video because, I've got a lot to say, a lot of experiences. I went off on one school trip with my primary school to Fermanagh. It was a weird thing. We went away for like a week. Did like banana boating and stuff, on the banana boat out in the river, or out in I think it was the sea, I don't know. Fermanagh, where is that near? Is that near the sea? I don't even know these days. I'm really bad with my geography even here. But yeah, I stayed there, and I think I did have like some girl interested in me there, but I just didn't have any concept of that at that age. It was just like, okay, she likes me, what, big deal, I don't care. Move on. I didn't care about that at that point. So I could have had a girlfriend at that age, which is ridiculous. Like, I was, what, 10, 11 years old. But I just completely, I was so prideful about things, about looking like a fool, that even at that age, I didn't acknowledge it. It was like, okay, great. It was kind of, especially with emotions, because I couldn't deal with emotions. It was just very straight faced most of the time, especially even at that age, and especially into my teenage years. I'm never good at expressing my emotions, and I regret that. Maybe it's just my upbringing. I never had much affection shown to me, and I did for my mother, so I don't understand that. Like, my mother did give me affection and love, so I just didn't appreciate it from her as much, I guess. Never got any from my dad, really. But yeah, that's what dads are like usually. I don't know. Some dads are loving and caring, and it's the mother's. I don't know if you want to say it's the mother's job, but you know what I mean. The mother is generally more caring, but yeah, there are mothers who aren't caring as well. I know. It just depends. It's luck of the draw what parents you get. I mean, so yeah, the Fermanagh thing. I actually ran out of my room, and I had like really undersized underwear, which was like tidy whities, but they were too small for me. I think I'd had them from like 3 years old or something. And I was 10 wearing them. They were bright orange too. I ran outside the room, and I think I was going through puberty at the time, so I was kind of horny, because the girls were on another side and we were on this side, and I ran out of my room with just that on, and one of the, I think it was the camp supervisors or something, caught me and was like, "What are you doing? Get back in your bed." That was so embarrassing. I was so dead inside from that. I wish I could just die in a hole from the embarrassment of that. It was so embarrassing. Caught outside in the middle of the night in my trunks. At what, 11 years old? It was a female too, a female camp supervisor, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I went away there, and I wasn't that good at socializing then either, and kind of felt ostracized a wee bit. That's kind of the start of my downfall of socializing. Like, people just didn't want to be around me. I guess it's because I was so negative and boasting about being a hard man when I wasn't really. I just had the wrong attitude. I had the wrong ideas in my head, and I wish I'd never been like that. I never want to be like that again. I was a spide, sort of. I'd wear Adidas tracksuits and stuff. So yeah, I guess you could consider me a spide at that point. I was that until about 13 years old, and then I changed into more rap. I would wear rap clothes, like the Fabu stuff, because this was around 2001, year 2000, 2001, when rap was at its peak. All that Eminem and DMX and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, all that I would listen to around that age. So I was very much into gangster rap. That also influenced me into drugs. So yeah, these things definitely have an influence on you. I mean, parents are right when they say they have an influence, because I've lived through it and I know they did have an influence on me. So I'm not going to lie about that. They did definitely have an influence on me. But at the end of the day, it was my choice. Even though, your mind's not fully developed until you're 27, so you can't really make rational choices until you're 27. Especially when you're young, you're not as rational. You don't make rational decisions. You make spur of the moment decisions. You just do things, which helps in some ways if you direct that into like a career or something, because you just do things, you just get on with things, you just learn things, you don't worry too much, you don't think about it, you don't procrastinate as much, you don't waste time as much, because you haven't experienced time before. So like, everything's new and everything's exciting, everything's, you have that enthusiasm, that bursting, overflowing enthusiasm for life, which I wish I could get back so much. I miss that so much. Anyway, yeah, after primary school, I don't think there's anything else I wanted to address, just those main stories. I can always go more into depth in a future video, but this is like an overview of my school time, and then I'll go into high school, which is the main reason I'm making this. People wanted to hear about my high school experiences, which was grammar school for me. It's the same thing, it's just called a different name for some reason. It's like, you need better grades to get into it. So I went to grammar school. In first form I was always like trying to be the class clown. I was always trying to be controversial. I was always had this feeling inside me, I better do something in class to make me. I wanted to be popular, yeah, but at the same time I was pushing people away, so it was kind of weird. Like I wanted to be the cool guy. I wanted to be like everybody does who doesn't really, except for like people that are smart that focus on their work, which they're there to do. They're the smart ones, and they're the ones that get on, the nerds who actually get on. I never wanted to be associated as a nerd, but I guess I ended up being one anyway. So yeah, but not the right type of nerd. I wasn't like into my studies. I was really neglectful of my studies, especially when I started grammar school. I just didn't really bother at all. Somehow I just coasted through school, pretty much coasted through. Ignored my responsibilities, played video games, But in first form I did have friends. I had a couple of friends, and I had like female interest big time back then, because I was like better looking than I am now. I didn't have acne, I didn't have scars, my nose wasn't broken at that time, so it was a lot better looking. Younger obviously as well. I think I've showed photos of that when I was 13, so you can go back and look at my photos video. I did a photos video of when I was younger up till about the age of 14. I must do an update video with photos of me from in the ages of 20, or in the ages of 20 and my teens as well. I don't have that many photos of them, but I have a few. Anyway, first form, I was a troublemaker, definitely, and I always wanted to stand out, and I was always kind of my own type of guy. I never wanted to fit in. I never wanted to be, just do things to belong. Like in primary school, I was trying to buy football magazines and get into football, but I was never really interested in football. I didn't really care about football at all. But after primary school, I just didn't care about football at all, and I was trying to do my own thing and trying to be my own person. But I did make friends that way, and made from being I want to be gangster from listening to rap. Obviously, I made friends who weren't they weren't they were bad influences basically, but I was a bad influence myself, because I'd been influenced badly and I had a bad past, a troubled background. So made some bad friends, and they were into drugs and stuff, and wanted to get drugs, and wanted to the way you are at 13, you're a rebellious teenager. You want to, when you're 12 you're a good boy, and then it's like the clock strikes and you turn 13 and suddenly you're a rebel that wants to do all these bad things. I don't know why that is, but it's just the hormones kick in. So I wanted to we wanted to get a skeleton key and break into houses and everything, and do all this bad shit, like the worst you could think of. But we never ended up really doing anything bad. It's just in school, in primary school, I used to also go. I had a friend in primary school. We used to go to there was this post office shop with no cameras in it. We used to go in there and steal a load of pencils and pens and stationery and rubbers. So I used to be a shoplifter, yes. When I was a kid, I didn't know any better, obviously. So I was kind of a bad kid, I guess, as well. But generally I was a good kid. I read and I did my drawings and stuff, but just when I got with friends I wanted to impress them, I guess, so I would do stuff like that, where I would be stealing stuff. But I actually didn't steal stuff initially. It was my friend that stole stuff, and he convinced me to steal stuff, so he was a bad influence also. But he wasn't a bad kid. It was just what you do when you're a kid, stupid shit, especially in those days, like the 90s. A lot of bad influences from TV and popular culture. So in first form I would also go out and steal from shops, steal albums and steal sweets from the sweet shop. I didn't really steal anything big, but eventually I got caught and I got suspended for that. I got suspended for stealing a flump. I think it was a flump from it was a shop near my school. You know, what do you call those? Stationery, not a stationery, but a confectionery shop or a newsagent's, yeah, you call it here. So I got suspended for that in first form, and he got suspended as well because we both had our uniforms on and we were stealing stuff. And that place did have cameras, so yeah, I got suspended for that. So yes, I was a bad kid, but I wasn't really a bad kid deep down. I was just troubled and misled, and this is what can happen. I mean, you have to look beyond sometimes people's crimes to what, you know, what's happened in their past. Why did they become this way? Why are they acting this way? And yeah, I wanted to be a badass. I wanted to be a thug, a criminal, a gangster. That's what I wanted, and I didn't care about my future. I didn't care about, like, if I'd grown up in a black neighborhood in America, I would have been, you know, a gangbanger. I think I would have turned out to be a gangbanger, one of those with a gun, and probably would end up dead, shot somewhere. If we'd had that in this country, but we don't. Luckily, we don't really have that culture here. It's more peaceful. I mean, we had the Troubles, yes, but that was well over by the time I was in the 2000s. That was well over. We had the peace agreement and everything. So, you know, I would have been selling drugs and stuff if I could have. If I had the opportunity to at that age, I would have. I was that bad. I was that misled. I was that off the straight and narrow. So I would have done that. I would have gone to jail. I would have ended up killed, shot. That's not even a lie. That's not even an exaggeration. If I had the opportunity, I would have done that. So maybe it's for the best that I didn't become that, and I didn't grow up. You know, I grew up where I did in this country instead of somewhere else. Obviously, there, but for the grace of God go I. It's like that sort of thing. So yeah, I was into drugs, and I wanted to try all the drugs, and I wanted to steal and be a delinquent. At that time, I don't know, it's just I was misled by, I guess, all those albums, rap albums, and the stuff I watched. I can't even remember what I watched. Like, I watched a lot of crap. A lot of adult stuff, yeah. Movies and violent movies and violent entertainment. So yeah, I was influenced by that and aspired to be that. But it wasn't. I know it's obviously now I know better than I did back then. So things turn out for the best. Like, I guess my social anxiety helped me to not become that and not lead me. I suppose it stopped me going down that path. It course corrected me. So I guess it was a good thing in the end, because I would have ended up worse off and in prison or dead. But yeah, I've hung out with that friend for about a year until second form, and then, you know, we changed classes, so I didn't really see him as much, and we sort of fell out. I don't know why we fell out, just sort of fell out. And we used to hang out at each other's houses like all the time, and used to walk home from school because we lived kind of close to each other, so it was great walking home from school with him. That was some good memories. Like, I used to steal stuff and from the shop and then throw it at people and throw it at windows, and I was such a bad kid. I know, I can't believe I was that person, but I was. Maybe I'm paying for my bad karma. That's why I made so much bad karma. I mean, so I have to pay for it. Looking back now, yeah, I can see the bad karma I made and why I'm paying so much for the things I did and neglecting my responsibilities and being, well, I was misled. Like, so I don't know. I know I'm responsible at the end of the day, but when you're a kid, you're easily led and misled. So, you know, I was misled by popular culture, by gangster rap, by all those influences, by violence and thuggery. I wanted to be that. I thought it was cool. Obviously, you want to be what's cool when you're younger, don't you? And that's what was cool. The worst generation, probably, because we had so many bad influences, especially in the 90s, late 90s, Attitude Era, and in wrestling too. So yeah, I fell out with that friend in second form. Ended up, he said, oh, I was walking around school one day and he said, oh, look, here's everybody's best friend, James. And then I fucking kicked him square in the nuts. I could actually feel the warmth of his nuts. That was horrible. I wouldn't want that done to me. I know how that feels. I don't know why I did it. I didn't mean to kick him in the nuts. It was just like a reaction. I was a reactionary then, so I just kicked him square in the nuts. Um, Obviously, he wanted to fight me after that, but I was just like, nah, I don't want to fight you. Why would I want to fight you? So we never actually fought, but I did kick him in the nuts. I'm sure that didn't feel good, but he made me feel bad by saying that. So it was just making him feel for how I felt, but that wasn't the right way to go about it. Made some other friends in second form. Well, I only ever had one friend really. I had him in first form. He was a different friend. I don't know if I should not mention names. I'll say Patrick. That was my friend in first year. And then I made friends with Mark. I won't mention their full names, obviously. And Mark was a good friend. He wasn't as delinquent as my first friend, but he would take me to his house, my first friend Patrick, and he would show me porn and stuff, and all these websites of women putting snakes into their vagina and stuff. So he misled me there. Camera cut off there, but basically what I was saying was, so yeah, I had that friend he misled me, but yeah, I was easily misled at that time. I wanted to be into that stuff anyway, so I'd been looking at porn from 10 years old. I think the first porn thing I saw was the Playboy channel, which was we had cable, I think it was a legal cable, so you had all the channels. So you had the Playboy channel. I would flick onto that. I was like, whoa. Yeah, at that time I was about 10, 11. So yeah, I didn't know how to masturbate. I don't know, I think the first time I actually ejaculated, I was rubbing myself against the towel or something. I had a towel on and I was rubbing it against myself, and it just came out, and I was like, oh, what's this? What the hell? I did a sex wee. Call it. Nah. I did a sex wee. Nah. But yeah, that was the start of it, and then got a computer, and I used to download Naked Asians onto a floppy disk, as I said. And then I didn't really see anything hardcore until he showed me that stuff on his computer in first form. This was age of 13, so saw snakes and octopuses inside a woman. I don't know why. This was just weird stuff. Totally, I've never seen stuff like that before, obviously, so maybe it mentally scarred me. Nah, not really. But yeah, after fell out with that friend, I made another friend, Mark. Basically, we were in school one day in technology class, and he wanted me. I never really talked to anybody, but he out of the blue just asked me for a pound or something. He called Jams Quiddy Poo. I don't know, it was so retarded now looking back, but yeah, that's how our friendship started, and we were friends for a while. I think only a year actually as well, so most of my friends I fell out with after a year, so not that good at keeping friends, obviously. We hung out quite a bit. I think he had other friends though. I only really had him as a friend, but we did hang out a lot, and he lived near me also, so we walked home from school together a lot, which was great. Again, I loved walking home from school with somebody. It was a lot better than walking home on your own. I used to get the bus actually, but then when we started walking home together and my first friend started walking home together, I always walked home instead of getting the bus. But when I had no friends, I just got the bus because it was quicker. But it was about a 20-minute walk, so we got plenty of walking with our school packs on, so it was good exercise too. I always talked about delinquent stuff going home, jerking off and porn and women and being perverts. I was a pervert at that time, definitely. I was kind of proud of that, it was retarded, but I'm glad I got out of that mindset, definitely. That was, just misled, that's all it is, misled youth. Misspent youth, and wasted my diamonds, wasted my seed, and wasted my life on being a delinquent and not focusing on my studies, focusing on what's important, focusing on my future, focusing on building a life. Obviously at that age you're not thinking about those things, at least most people aren't. The lucky ones that do think of those things, they succeed, they become successes. Whereas I was just lost with video games, entertainment, and porn addiction, and just got worse over the years, over my teenage years especially. I got to the point where I was jerking off 5-10 times a day, watching porn all day, or else playing video games when I wasn't watching porn. When I reached the limit, where I couldn't get any pleasure out of it anymore. So it's just a pleasure addict, basically. Total waste. If I'd known that was spending my points, that's spending your points. That's like wasting all those good points I obtained. I wasted them all. I spent them all. That's like money in your bank, and I wasted it all. Spent it all. Let it all go on indulging in pleasure. You know, eating junk, watching entertainment, playing video games, jerking off, watching porn. No wonder I couldn't have a relationship. No wonder I fell out with all my friends. No wonder I had no friends after a while. Just an addict in every sense of the word. A complete addict. Wasn't a drug addict, but I was addicted to entertainment, porn, and video games. So it's an easy when you're young to fall into that trap and get misled down that road, and it's hard to get out of that. But yeah, eventually you realize, because you end up feeling so bad after it, and you know that something isn't right about this, something doesn't work about this. You're using up all your dopamine, so normal life and studying and learning things doesn't have the appeal anymore that it once did. So reading books doesn't have the appeal that it once did. That's why I was so enthusiastic about reading books, and I could have kept that enthusiasm if I hadn't wasted it on entertainment, on porn, on video games. I wasted all my dopamine on that, so I had none left for reading, I had none left for studying, so I didn't want to study. I didn't have any motivation, any drive to study. Whereas if I'd kept that, if I hadn't played with myself, if I hadn't watched porn, if I hadn't entertained myself too much, if I hadn't watched video games or played video games too much, I would have had that motivation, would have had that dopamine that would have motivated me to pursue those things. And I wish someone had kept me on that straight and narrow. I wish I kept myself on that straight and narrow. If I could go back in time with what I know now, I would keep myself on that straight and narrow, but it's too late. I had to learn the hard way. I did learn the hard way, like the prodigal son. He leaves home, he goes out and experiences the world, and he realizes this isn't as good as it's not all it's cracked up to be. So he returns back to the father, to his job on the farm, to look after the farm. So he realizes that's where he should have been. That's where he should have stayed. You have to be like the prodigal son. It only works that way. You can't tell someone anything. They have to experience it. Experience brings understanding. Anyway, back to school. So yeah, second form. I don't know how. Me and Mark, we went out a lot. Did a lot of things. Like we went out drinking on New Year's. That was the first time I've been out drinking. Went to like a festival. There was like a festival in Belfast, in front of the city hall. I think this was in 2002. There was like a big like DJs and everything, and you know, Radio 1. It was a Radio 1 thing, I think. They had like DJs for New Year on New Year's Day. It was really good. Like I was only 13, 14. I think I was 14 at the time, so we went to that and had a good time. Yeah, it was kind of boring, but it was alright. I mean, it was a good time, just drinking beers and, you know, drinking cheap wine, you know, the fruity wine, what do you call that? I can't remember. West Coast Cooler, yeah. Got a West Coast Cooler. Good times, but yeah, I haven't drank really since then. And we went out on Halloween also. He used to smoke, so he convinced me to try smoking. I tried it a couple of times and didn't really like it. I never got addicted to smoking, luckily. I'm addicted to like video games, entertainment, porn, but I never got addicted to any drugs. Though I did take drugs and I tried smoking, and Mark was the guy who had the contact with the guy. From his sister, actually, he had the contact with this guy who was a drug dealer. I don't know how old he was. I think he was only like 17 or something, so that was the first cannabis I ever tried, and it was really potent stuff, as I said before. It was like black tar, like hashish, you call it, hashish. But it was really strong stuff, and yeah, probably had some psychological impact on me, because you can't start off, you have to start off mild and work your way up with that sort of stuff. So yeah, we got those, you know, had those experiences with drugs and smoking and drinking and, you know, the usual teenage experiences. But I really didn't do it that much. This was only like once in a blue moon. Though we did go out, like we didn't really go out specifically. We just walked around the streets, you know, smoking in the back alleys and stuff. And that one time we did go out to the festival thing and drank at that and had a good time, got drunk and came home late at night. I don't know what time it was, like 3, 4 in the morning. So that's the only time I've really been out in my life. It was to that festival. And then after that we pretty much fell out as friends. I don't know what happened. Just he moved classes or something. This was in third form. Yeah, he was in different classes than me. I mean, we're always moved about in classes, which really sucked. At least if we stayed in the same class, I could have kept some of my friends, but we always got moved about. So it was like, different subjects, you could choose your subjects and stuff, and I chose different subjects than him, obviously. We never really, got together and said, what subjects are you doing, what subjects am I doing? So we made sure we were staying together. We never did that. We're not very through other with that, so, we just ended up in different classes, and then obviously he made new friends, and I sort of made new friends. I mean, I was in math class one day, and I made my next friend after him. We just sort of drifted apart, stopped talking to each other. I think I got moody with him one day, and they just stopped talking to me. He was always ringing me up and telling me to say funny things to him, because I was kind of like the class clown, but I just got sick of it, and I didn't want to be someone ringing me up, just to make them laugh. So I just didn't put any effort in after that, and obviously drifted apart, because if you don't put effort into a relationship, it just breaks down, even if it's a friendship. So yeah, got to that point where I didn't really put effort in, and then I had my third friend in school. I was in third form, around the age of 14. So yeah, his name was John, and we hung out. We played video games a lot at his house. So he was a nicer guy. He wasn't into drugs and stuff. He was a clean cut guy. He was more in that friendly group of people. He wasn't into all that rap, gangster rap, and violence and stuff. So he was more a nice guy. A nice guy. He was a nice guy. He was a friendly guy. He went out of his way to make friends with me. Like, I didn't try to be friends with him. He tried to be friends with me, and we became friends because he put himself out there. So yeah, I would have never spoke to him or anything. I think we were just sitting together, and he just started talking. I was drawing like Dragon Ball Z stuff, and he said, "Oh, I like Dragon Ball Z," so we became friends because of that. I think I was just drawing like a Dragon Ball Z, the eyes and the hair and everything, because I watched Dragon Ball Z at that time. I was a big fan, obviously. So yeah, we became friends because of that, and then went over to his house to play like Time Splitters 2, when it came out. So whenever that came out, that's when we were friends. So, this was like the weekend that came out, that we hung out, and we would walk along the river and stuff, and that was a good friendship. Probably the best friendship I had, though it didn't last long. I don't know, it didn't last very long for some reason. I think one day he was, he wasn't the most popular guy, so I was saying to some other people, I was still trying to be a tough guy and trying to be, they said, "Why are you friends with this guy?" Because I was kind of in the popular crowd, but not a popular guy. I was like an outsider, but in the popular crowd, which was weird, because I would hang out with, edgy, popular kids, sort of. Those first two friends were. So yeah, they were like, "Why are you hanging out with this guy now?" It was weird for them. Other guys would ask me to sit with them and talk with them, but I would just sit on my own. So I was kind of weird like that. I was an outsider, but I was popular because I got suspended a few times from school, and that made me edgy and cool. Yeah. So, oh yeah, I got suspended. The second time I got suspended, I should talk about that first. Like, in second form, I brought a gun to school. I bought an air gun with darts. It fires darts and pellets, and I was actually firing it around school. There was a teacher walking around up the stairs, and I fired it. I didn't fire it at her, but I just fired it at like a corkboard beside her. I can't believe I brought a gun to school. It actually looked like a gun too. I got that confiscated off me, and I got suspended for that again. So that was fun. Oh, and the third time I got suspended was for throwing a water balloon at somebody. I was with Mark, and we both threw a water balloon at this woman who was walking along the road, and she reported us because we were wearing our school uniforms. She obviously reported the area, and she asked for our names. I walked away, and he obviously couldn't walk away because it was in his street where his house is. So yeah, he got caught, and obviously I got roped into it too, and got suspended for that again. It's ridiculous for getting suspended for throwing a water balloon at someone, like. But yeah, I was rude to the woman as well, and told her to F off, like, when she asked me for my name. Uh, I was not a good kid. No, I was not. I had my good moments, but yeah, I was obviously delinquent, and I was obviously a slacker. Just that kind of guy. Um, and I was proud of it too. I know. Really shouldn't be proud of that. What have I got to be proud of now? What have I got to show for it for being that way now? I've got nothing to show for it now. This is what happens when you act that way in school. When you ditch out of school, I also like bunked out of school so many times. I just didn't go to school, didn't bother going to school. I would pretend to go to school, like my mom would go to work and I'd be out of the house, and then I'd pretend to go to school, and then I'd come back round the back alleys trying to avoid like being seen by any traffic, because I knew like there were people she knew on the road that would see me, so I'd have to come back by the back alleys. I would do this a couple of days a week, like sometimes I'd do this every day. Just take days and days off school and go play video games all day, go watch TV all day. That's all I would do on my own. That's what I wanted to do most. I just wanted to lie down and rot, especially even at that age, like that young age, the whole way through school. I used to go to school for half days sometimes as well, and then there would be subjects like business studies I didn't want to go to, so I didn't bother going to those. I just went home. Again by the back alleys, which was about a 20-minute walk, so it was kind of far. And I used to take my school uniform off on the way and stuff it into my bag, so people wouldn't think I'd just come out of school early. So I was really sneaky like that. I thought I was a ninja assassin sneaking home from school. But yeah, let's get back to that friendship in third form. So you can see why I ended up the way I did. I mean, looking back at that was like I was just terrible at school, and yeah, I had my moments, like I had potential, but I totally wasted it. I was smart, but I just wasted my potential, and I didn't have anybody to course correct me, really. I mean, my parents, they had good intentions. They did try to do the right thing, and they did try to discipline me, and but at the end of the day, it's up to the child. I mean, it was up to me. I mean, what could they possibly do to stop me doing those things? There wasn't that much they could do to stop me doing those things. I was unruly, I was disobedient, and yeah, I had my troubled past, I had my troubled background, I had my abuse that I suffered, but I can blame that. But also I was under bad influences, so I was influenced bad, and I hid in my room, and I didn't want to associate with anybody. I couldn't be arsed. I was just like, I can't be arsed. I just lie down and play video games, and that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I did. I was like, I want to do this. Why should I listen to anybody that tells me I don't not to do this? This is what I want to do. I don't care about my future. Fuck that. Live in the moment. That's the hard part. It pays off in the future. You don't think about your future. Your future's going to be nothing. You're not planting any seeds, so nothing's going to grow. It's obvious. Anyway, that friend John, yeah, we hung out for a while, a couple of months to a year, and then I think by the time I was reaching the end of my 14th year, I didn't have any friends. I just fell out with him as well. He was following me home one day, and I didn't know why he was following me. It was weird. He was like talking to me and following me home, and I said, "Why are you following me home?" I knew he lived a different direction, but this was after I told people. Like, people were asking me, "Why do you hang out with him?" And I said to them, "I'm just trolling him. I was being really cruel. Like, I said really cruel things. I said I don't actually like him. I don't want to hang out with him. I'm gonna beat him up and stuff, and turn on him." I was psychotic like that. I had really psychotic, like sociopathic. It wasn't sociopathic, sorry. It was what's the word? Schizophrenic mind. I was kind of a schizophrenic in school. I don't know. I was a psycho. People called me Psycho. That was my nickname, Psycho, because like at the drop of a hat, I would lose my temper and start, fights. I didn't really get into that many fights. I had one fight in school, really, but I just pretended so people would avoid me. Basically, it was like self-defense mechanism. Like I couldn't really fight at all. I never took any fighting lessons. I was terrible at fighting. The one fight I did have, we punched each other once, and yeah, it was terrible. It was a really bad fight, and the teacher came down and broke it up, and that was it. It was over. So that's the one fight I actually did have in school. Other than that, I avoided them by projecting, an image of, oh, I'm a fighter, I'm a tough guy, I'm a savage, whatever you want to call it. So I just projected that, and people avoided me because of that. I would push people away because of that, which wasn't good for me because then I didn't have any friends. But somehow I did have friends in my first 3 years, but after that I really didn't have any. After I betrayed my friends, and I guess people got to know me as that, a betrayer, which is not good to be known as, because no one wants to associate with you then. Like pretending to be friends with someone and then planning to beat them up and stuff like that. That's just sick. I don't know what I was thinking. I wouldn't have ever done that. Like, I was just saying that stuff. I don't know why I said that stuff. I wish I could go back and take it back. I wish I wasn't that person, but I was that person. All those fighting games, all those violent movies, and all the, you're wanting to be the popular guy, wanting to be the outsider, but the popular guy at the same time. I had a weird mind and weird things I wanted to be, and I just played games. I didn't only play games, video games. I played games with people. I was playing games in my head. Like I thought, this is an experiment. I'll try ignoring people and see how that goes. I think that'll make me popular because people think I'm cool, offstandish. It's really hard to explain my mindset. It was fucked up my mind was so fucked up, like you can't even imagine. It was the worst mind state you can possibly have. Like possibly have. It was like hyper superiority inferiority complex. Hyper insanely superior. Some days I would think I was the king of the world, the best in the world, all this, and then the next day I would think, oh fuck, feel like shit, feel like nothing, feel like a pea, couldn't even walk down the street. So yeah, it was just swinging from one to the other. Was not a stable ground, and how can I build on such an unstable ground? It was like rubble everywhere. It was totally a total mess. My mind was a mess, I was a mess. Just no wonder I ended up looking a mess, because I don't know why I have acne now. I'm not like this anymore, but back then I had bad acne too, and that didn't help matters. I lived around this corner from an ice cream shop, so I would get ice cream every night. I was indulging in my pleasures at that time. I would eat bags of Haribo and like crisps. I would eat like 20 packets of crisps. I came home from school, I would just open the cupboard and like get the 20 pack of multi-pack crisps and just eat and eat and eat. I never gained weight though, which was really weird. I was still as thin as fuck. Had a really high metabolism, obviously. I would just sit and watch Dragon Ball Z and eat tons and tons of crisps and sweets and drinks and all sorts of junk. So that wasn't good. And then I was playing with myself as well and wasting my seed. So just on multiple levels, I was just pleasure seeking and self-destructive, not investing. I was spending. So I regret that, and I wish I could go back and change it and invest in my youth. So if people are watching this and they're in their youth, please invest in your youth. Don't be like me. Don't bunk off school. Don't ignore people. Don't be an asshole towards people like I was, and don't think you're cooler or better than anybody. Don't have inferiority complex. Try to break free of those things. It is possible, because I have broken free of those things. And if people are your friends, please try to stay friends with them. Please reciprocate that, because I know I must have hurt that guy's feelings. I must have made him feel terrible, and I wish I'd kept him as a friend, because he was a great friend. He ended up growing like way taller than me anyway, so I wouldn't probably feel comfortable with him now. I mean, after we broke up as friends, like he was the same height as me, and then he like exploded in height. So yeah, maybe he made good karma and I made bad karma, so I got punished. Also in school, I mean, after that, and he was walking home with me one day after I told people that, and I felt guilty about telling people that. So I wasn't a total, I still had feelings, I still had empathy, and I was just trying to overwrite that, because I thought that was weak. I didn't want to be a weak person, I wanted to be strong. I thought strength was being angry and hateful like that, but that's not strength at all. That's actually weakness. Being egoful and prideful, and that's just weakness. Actually, it's not strength. Strength is the ability to love and be loved, and that is actual strength. I wish I'd known that when I was younger, but live and learn. Anyway, one day he was following me home from school, just talking to me generally and being friendly, and I told him, "Why are you following me? Would you just fuck off?" I told him that, and since that day we were never friends again. So I did abuse him quite a lot, so I was abusive. an abusive friend, so I was carrying forward my abuse onto other people. So I can see why I paid the price I did, and I regret being that way, and I'll never be that way again, obviously. I mean, I always walked around school with a big frown on my face, and because I didn't want to. I wanted to be that guy that, to scare people away, to be feared. I wanted to be feared. That's it. Bottom line, I wanted to be feared. Because I know I grew up in fear, so I wanted to be feared because I didn't want to fear other people. But that brought fear onto me and into my heart, and that's what caused social anxiety, all that stuff. Like one day, some guy tried to hug me, and I grabbed him by the throat and threw him up against the wall. And that's another fight I did have, actually. That was in 5th form. This guy was younger though, and I did get detention for that. Luckily I didn't get suspended for that. I just dragged him up against the wall and started punching him in the stomach. So I guess I have been in a few fights, I just didn't remember. That wasn't a fight though, he didn't fight back, so he tried to hug me, and I thought he was trolling me or something, but probably was, but it didn't call for that. I mean, that was extreme. I didn't take any nonsense. I didn't put up with any nonsense. If anybody stepped to me, I would completely lose it with them. I would scream in their face. I would grab them. I was totally unhinged, like a psychopath. That's why people call me Psycho. That was my nickname, Psycho. So yeah. I mean, I'm not proud of that, obviously. I mean, in some ways, there is a glimmer of pride there, but I know I shouldn't be prideful about that, but yeah, it obviously didn't lead me to have any friendships. I just didn't have any social circles then, because, I was that way, and people avoided me then after that point, and they judged me as that, even though I changed, especially after 5th form. I changed a lot, especially in 6th form, upper 6th. I wasn't that way at all anymore. I grew out of it, I guess you could say. I was more peaceful after that. I never got into a fight after 5th form. Never got into trouble after 5th form. Though I still didn't focus on my studies enough. I was still too distracted with video games and entertainment. Obviously, I'm only relaying the bad things here, the key experiences, the traumatic experiences and things I did onto others that I regret, obviously, now. And I apologize for if anybody that sees that grew up and knew me, I'm very sorry that I acted that way, but, because of my past child abuse and the abuse I suffered as a child, I'm not blaming that 100%. I mean, those are traumatic experiences that stick out and might have made me violent, but it was also the media I took, violent media, and watched violent things, and yeah, that definitely has an impact, in gangster rap and all these things, and just bad influences all around, and that's what I took in. So I became demon possessed, I guess you would want to call it. But I luckily managed to break free of that, and I'll never go back to being that way again, even though I strongly identified with that also, those feelings and those emotions, and that's why it's so dangerous when you become so identified with that. You're the observer behind that, but if you become so identified with that, it's hard to break free of that. As for women in school, yeah, I had a few who showed interest in me. Like in 1st form, there was this one girl who, through a friend, she asked if I was interested in her, and the friend he said to me, "You aren't interested in her, are you?" The way he said it, I would have said yes, but the way he said it made me say no, so I kind of regret that, obviously. So I could have had a relationship at 12 again, I could have had one at 10, at 12, yeah. So obviously the way I dismissed her so brutally, so obviously that made bad karma for me again. I just said, no, I'm not interested in her at all. What are you talking about? As if. But I was interested in her in reality, and I don't know what I was playing at. Just because someone said something to me in a certain way, it persuaded me to say that. I always was afraid of making a fool out of myself, and never trusted anybody, never, I always wanted to, I guess I was trying to impress people all the time as well. Not being true to myself, but now I try to stay true to myself, try to stay honest. So yeah, screwed that up. And then in second form, there was another girl who said she loved me, and yeah, she was kind of common, but she was kind of tall as well. But she was I think she was a year behind me actually. So, but I liked her as well, and I would have had a relationship with her. But again, the pride thing came in, and I just ignored her. And obviously, that's, you get to a point where that's not gonna work out. You have to actually interact with people, and I never really interacted with her, even though she expressed interest in me. I always thought that people were trolling me or something, but I don't think they actually were, looking back. But you never know, they could have been. But live and learn, and at least if I'd tried, maybe, I would have got somewhere, especially in school. It's so easy, in a mixed school. So yeah, I had plenty of opportunities, and then again, when was my next opportunity that I screwed up? Trying to think. Oh yeah, in fourth form, there was this girl, but she was, I think people knew her as I don't know if you wanna, this isn't politically correct, but she was known as a whore, because she gave a blowjob to some guy who was a year above us, but she expressed interest in me as well, and she was an attractive girl, like, she was very attractive, but, and I would have probably dated her, but, I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't, because, of her association. I think she slept with someone in fifth form as well, and she was in boarding school, and then she gave that guy the blowjob, and she was known as a whore. The way you have these women in schools who get labelled as this, but I mean, she only had sex with that guy and gave that guy a blowjob at that age. But she was kind of in with that crowd. There were some girls who were considered whorish, and she was one of them. But she did express interest in me. She was always saying, like, "Oh, you're working out, can I see your muscles and stuff, and I can see them on your shirt." She's always flirting with me, and yeah, I could have, if I wanted to, got with her, but I didn't express any interest in her. I never expressed any interest in any female, because I was afraid to. I never thought I was good enough, for one thing, and especially after I got my nose broken. And I was always down on myself, and I always thought people were trolling me. Never trusted anybody. Like, I always thought they were trolling me, or, having a laugh. So, I always thought people were making fun of me. I always was very, 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 very paranoid and very psychotic. So I wouldn't even attempt to try. I wouldn't put any effort in. I wouldn't acknowledge them, really. I would just blank them and think I was cool, and obviously that's not going to get you anywhere with a relationship. You're not going to get a relationship being that way. I mean, it'll get you interest, yeah, because women go crazy if you ignore them, definitely. But you can't progress it, because you're not going to make a move. You're not going to do anything. You're still not going to do anything. But like, I was waiting for them to make the first move, but women never, ever, ever make the first move, like, without exception, like, almost always. I never saw a female make the first move in school, never. So, don't think I even saw, like, guys make the first move. I don't know when or where they did that, or how they got girlfriends, but maybe it was like at parties and stuff. So you had to go out, to drink with people, and then you'd get to know people, and then you'd develop relationships. But I had no social circles, but even then I had girls that showed interest in me, and I just ignored them and didn't pay any attention to them, and like, they'd say hello to me, I wouldn't even respond. I would just walk past them. I thought that was, I was being cool and mysterious, but no. I just wasn't comfortable saying hello either. I had anxiety about speech anxiety, sort of. But then when someone was talking to me, I would talk to them, no problem. But I kind of had speech anxiety, especially saying hello. I didn't know what to say. Hello's too formal. What do you say? Hi doesn't sound right. Hey sounds a bit cheesy. So I just wouldn't say anything. Like, I would be thinking through these things in my head. Should I say hello? Should I say hi? Should I say hey? And then I'd end up saying nothing. But it was also a pride thing, an ego thing. It was like a mix. My mind was just a mess, a complete mess of wires all tangled. So I just couldn't interact properly with people. So if they're watching this, this is why. I mean, why would they be watching this? But I don't know. Maybe in the future. I wish I could tell them this and explain, but I mean, it's long gone now. I'm sure they've long forgotten about me. Probably for the best how I ended up. So now looking back, I can see the karma I did make. I see I made some bad karma. That's why I ended up the way I am. But now I'm trying to make up for it. Trying to do everything I can to make good karma. Trying to be humble. Not kill my ego and pride, but keep it under check. Not let it get carried away. Not let it surge again. Oh yeah, and didn't have much interaction with people after 14. Just like people that would talk to me. I wouldn't talk to anybody unless they talked to me first. So I wouldn't approach people. I wouldn't speak to people. If they asked me a question, I'd respond sometimes. Sometimes I wouldn't. Sometimes it's just blank people completely, ignore them completely. I did get a rush out of that, a rise out of that, so it was a thrill-seeking thing as well. But it didn't really pay off for me, obviously. Then in upper sixth, I was in RE class and standing outside, and this girl came up to me. Oh, that previous girl's name was Carrie, by the way. I don't want to say her full name, but she had she was a redhead too, kind of like redheads, but yeah, never went anywhere with her, obviously. Then in lower sixth, sixth form, about 17 years old, outside a religious education class, this girl started talking to me. She had blonde hair. Her name was Catherine. She was a very, very nice person, very nice. I wasn't attracted to her initially, but like she grew on me definitely over the months, and she was talking to me and walking with me, and and went to a school trip to the cinema to see Passion of the Christ, and then that's when I fell for her. Like, she looked up at me in the cutest way, the way women look up at you, and said, like, I think she was fishing for compliments because she said her favourite word was cute. I think she wanted me to say you're cute. So then we would have had, she would have known I was interested in her. She was trying to fish to see if I was interested in her because she was interested in me, obviously. I mean, looking back on it now, it was super obvious. Like, if someone was throwing it in my face, I still wouldn't have made a move. It was that bad. I just didn't feel ready for a relationship at that age. I just wasn't comfortable with myself, wasn't comfortable with the way I looked, Yeah, obviously that didn't go anywhere because I didn't make any moves on her. I wish I had made a relationship with her because she was a really nice girl, and I don't know, if we'd got together, we probably would have got married and stayed together, I think, because she was really, really, really nice, really caring, loving person, and even beyond the superficial. I mean, yeah, she was she was into clubs and societies and stuff, and she went to Oxford, so she was very smart as well. I wish I'd be more like her and less like what I was. I was terrible. Didn't deserve anything really, I guess, because I was just a terrible person. But I did have a terrible, not the best upbringing. Let's just say not the best upbringing, and yeah, parents being divorced, unstable ground created an unstable person, and I have my excuses, but yeah, I had my choices to make, and you don't make the best choices when you're young. I mean, generally people don't. Some people are smart, some people are brought up by good parents that have good influences around them, so they become good people. They have good social circles, so supportive friends that help them on the way up, but I didn't have that. I only had one friend at a time, and they were, first two were, well, the first one was the worst influence, second one was alright, and the third one was a good guy, so yeah, that didn't last long though, unfortunately. He was the best friend, and well, probably the most loyal friend, and he didn't call me up, asking me to make him laugh or anything. He was a genuine friend, and I wish I'd kept him, obviously, and as a friend, so I screwed that up. So it was my own fault. Like, I told him to fuck off, and never talked to him again after that day. And with the women, I know I had plenty of opportunities in school, and I just wasted them all. Wasted my life, wasted my time, wasted my time in school, wasted my time in university. I'm just an expert. I'm so proficient at wasting time that how do you break that habit when you've become so good at it? I've been wasting my time for years. I've wasted it on, I don't know, I wish I could just go back and start again, because it's so hard once you've been down that hole to get out of that hole. How do you stop wasting time when you've been wasting time for so many years. Lying down and rotting, watching videos, watching entertainment, watching TV programs. When you come home from school, as soon as you come home from school, bunking off school to watch TV and play video games and watch movies and watch porn, obviously, and jerk off, just chasing pleasure and eating sweets. So yeah, obviously my school time was wasted. I didn't really learn what I should have learned. I had the potential. My teachers always said I had the potential, but I wasted it, and that is the biggest sin, to waste potential. To waste all that potential. I built to a point till about the age of 12. I read a lot of books. I drew. I built stuff. After 12, it just fell apart. I let my building, deteriorate into nothing. I let it become dilapidated. I abandoned my building. So basically, I'm starting from scratch at 31 years old. I've been trying, but in this life, do or do not, there is no try. I think this is a very long video, I know. It's going to be a long video. It's just covering the key moments from school, from high school, grammar school, university. Nothing really happened in university. I mean, let me just think if there's anything else in school I want to talk about. I think I covered all the key stuff and the key relationships and stuff. Yeah, I mean, in upper sixth and lower sixth and upper sixth, I really didn't talk to many people. I tried to make friends with one guy, but I think it was a guy I sort of bullied when he was younger, so it didn't really work out, obviously. Because I didn't really care about social status at that point. I didn't care about being a popular kid anymore. And upper sixth and lower sixth, 17. So I would talk to anybody really at that point, because I didn't have friends for 3 years at that point, basically. And that can make you kind of desperate and bring certain realizations that, this doesn't work. So I kind of started turning it around a little bit then, but not enough to where it made a difference. And then left school and just wasted my time on my summer off. I didn't really do anything. I had a part-time job actually at TK Maxx. I worked there over that summer. I actually started there while I was still working in school, so it was like towards the end of school I got that part-time job. And then where did that money go? I don't know, the money I got from that job. I did work quite a few days there, weekends, and it was 10-hour days. I quite enjoyed that job, and I did meet people there that I talked to, and I did make a friend there who I actually hung out with at least once. So I guess I did have a friend, but it was only very... I don't call them friends, because it was we weren't friends that long. I mean, we were friendly in work, we would talk to each other, and then really only hung out once. He came to my house once, just because I said I was into music making and I wanted to show him my setup and everything. Showed him that, and then he gave me his album or something. He was working on music too, and we shared albums, we exchanged albums that we'd made. But yeah, it didn't really go any further than that. Shared our MySpace pages. That was back in 2006, I think. So MySpace was still a thing, where people would put music up, and it was really good for artists. I don't know why we don't have anything like that now, really. Music making was a big pastime for people then, I guess, as well. It was a lot more popular than it is now. No, it's just a waste of money. There's so many VSTs and stuff that you need, and they cost thousands and thousands and thousands. And it's a lot harder to crack stuff nowadays. I used to crack Waves, and I actually bought Cubase, I bought Reason. I spent so much money on these things. I guess that's where my money went. And music equipment, mixers and synthesizers. So yeah, I did technically have friends after the age of 14, but not for very long, and not they only hung out with me once, and that was it. So once or twice, I think they went to an amusement park with me as well. There's a travelling amusement park that comes to the King's Hall. Went to that also, yeah, so twice we actually hung out. Yeah, as much as that. So yeah, we talked a lot in work though, and he was a good guy. He smoked weed as well, but he never got me any. I said I'd want to pick it up again, because I was, I was smoking Sylvia at that time, around the age of 17. I had Sylvia Denorium, as I said, and probably would have took up smoking cannabis again if I could have. Got a connect, like he had a connect. Obviously, he got his, but he didn't ever smoke it around me or offer me any or, sell me any or anything like that. Because he was just a friend, I guess. An acquaintance. Though we hung out twice, so I guess that is a friend. I don't know. What is a friend like? By friend, I mean like actual real friend that's, in your life quite a lot. That knows certain things about you. But I mean, everybody knows a lot about me now, so I guess you're all my friends. Whether you like it or not. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's everything about my school I wanted to cover, yeah. At least that's the main points. I mean, this has been a very long video, so I should wrap it up here. Alright, thanks for watching, and until the next time, peace out, stay safe, stay positive, and goodbye.